welcome. I'll go to a long life. I'll deploy OrIki. We thank the ancestors for their wisdom. We're going to do take a look at OrIki Egun. This OrIki for the ancestors appears in the Odu Otoropan Meji. Remember, if you mark it to say the OrIki, you don't say the word Otoropan, you say Baba instead of Otoropan. So this is interesting because it's an OrIki specifically for Awos to become possessed by Awos who have transitioned. You know, there's some people that suggest that possession, Awos don't go into possession. This OrIki would tend to contradict that, but it's very specifically to retrieve information that's been lost. You know, I'm of the opinion that traditional Yoruba culture does a great job of preserving the wisdom, because every year on the New Year's, June 21st, there's a 4-day recitation of the entire corpus of Odu Ifa, and that recitation, when you have the full access to the full oral scripture, it includes a description of virtually all the rituals we do. It lists the ingredients. It includes all the prayers that are done during ritual. So it's a very, very complete text. The text that we have and that we use in the diaspora are shorthand cliff notes at best. But there is stuff that's occasionally lost. It's interesting is that Odu comes through a Otoropan Meji, which talks about the source of illness and by implication the source of the healing. Otoropan, when marked with Irite Meji, is both the cause of the illness and the solution to the illness. So, you know, many illnesses and their remedies are very localized. They occur within a very specific geographical location, and the healing herbs. Ifa teaches that any illness has an antidote within 3 miles of the point of origin of the illness. So sometimes, over time, some of that information gets lost. Some of it changes, some of it's modified. So we have an OrIki here for staying abreast of all that. So are di are anu iere di iere aro bioju bashe meji won awon. It is now a pitiful place. The chant has become a dirge. When eyes are two, they watch events unfold. So a pitiful place meaning it's just really referred to a place where an illness has erupted, where either the cure has not yet been found, or it was found and lost. So this is talking specifically about a situation where the tools for solution are not readily available. BSA Bashe Meji Won Rin Gidi Gidi Lona Bebe Idi She Meji Won Joko Lori Ini. When legs are two, they walk with heavy treading. When the behinds are two, they sit on a mat. When legs are two. So this is talking about restrictions on the journey of life when legs are heavy. When the behinds are two, they sit on the mat. And I think it seems to be a reference to 2 or more people sitting down for divination to consider a particular problem. That would be relevant in this verse, because if you're going to invoke possession by an ancestor to address an issue, you need at least one person present in the ritual to hear what's being spoken. To do this ritual effectively by ourselves or alone doesn't make a lot of sense. Owokan oro sheke be ni eshekan o she giri giri lona One hand does not jingle, also one leg does not rock with a fast treading. So it's talking about the necessity of working with others to retrieve whatever information's been lost here. Oto ni apwe ni ti aki ichewon ni kun ki ara iwaju. We are called differently. I am asked to kneel and greet those before me. So, that second sentence, wani kunle ki ara iwaju, that's specifically speaking of addressing and praising the chakra or the portal that gives us access to the ancestors. Mokunle mo ki ara iwaju, that's the same phrase repeating. Boni kunle ni pwe eroti mbe le'in. I knelt and greeted those before me. I'm asked to kneel and call upon those before me. So that's kind of a generic reference to the idea of honoring all the great Awos who have become ancestors so that we get their collective attention, so those Awos that can provide us with the information we need step up and communicate. Again, in this next sentence, we're kind of reiterating the same idea. Mokumle mopai erotim bele'in wani awon wo ni ara iwajuani. I knelt and called on those behind me. They asked, who are those before me? So this is kind of a process of identifying that you're an Awo worthy of receiving the blessing of retrieving lost information. It's kind of like a way of establishing your credibility. Moni orisha ile baba ini lero ki mbele in ala pande de ko ile ton. I say it is the Orisha and one family that are behind me. The Ethiopian swallow builds its nest. All right, so Ethiopian swallow, that's kind of a bird related to Iami. So the Orisha and the Iami are supported by this invocation in the sense that when the Awos come forward, they bring with them not only their life experience, but they bring with them the connection to Orisha, in this case their connection to Iami. So this is a reference to asking both the Babas and Iyas of Ifa to share their wisdom. We also see in this line an Ofo Shea, a word of power specifically used to enhance possession, and that's Alapen Dede. So that word, as in all Ofo Shea, can be repeated for emphasis until it kind of morphs into resonance. So Alapan Dede 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 Oh. Okay, so Kokan Omi Kokan Oke Ogbesi Agbede Meji Orun. Wo Oludumare Loju Loju. It is suspended in the sky looking at the Creator. So that's kind of a request for connection to ancestors, connection to Iami, connection to Orisha. I would argue connection to Elah is inferred here, and going back to the origins of creation in Oludumare. So it's saying face Oludumare, looking at the Creator. Oludumare Loju, Loju, looking at the Creator. So the saying the information is suspended in the sky, that's really one of the fundamental concepts of Ifa paleoscience, or I would argue Ifa quantum physics, in which information is carried on frequencies, streams of frequencies. So when we access the correct frequency, we can access the information we're looking for to fix a particular problem. That's the whole point of divination. Owon omo araye lenu atang giri 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 difafun odusolo omo oranche. So again, we have another Ofo Ashe here. Actually, we have three of them. The names of the diviners here are the Ofo Ashe for the OrIki Ire for invoking possession that we're looking for with the spirit of the Egun of Awo. So the first Ofashe is Antang Giri Giri. So Atang Giri 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 O. And the next one is Odu Sho 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 Sho. And the last one is Rana She 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 Yo. Initi Baba Refi Sile Kuni Kiri Kiri Lenje Lenje Le Mo Dida Owo. So this is referring to the diviners as whose father died when he was a child without knowledge of how to perform divination. So it's referring specifically to a historical figure, or at least an archetype of an historical figure of someone who is in a remote area and unable to study Ifa directly with an elder, sort of giving that person access to the ancestral wisdom. This was actually a ceremony that I was blessed to receive in Africa. They realized that at the time I went, there were literally no teachers of traditional Ifa in the United States that I knew of. I ran across one eventually, but 35 years ago, that just wasn't an option. So they connected me to the son of Aran Nashe, the child of one who is without a teacher, all right? Which is why it's really an incredible blessing, which is why when I'm lecturing sometimes, if I'm not clear of an answer, I can just tap into the ancestral spirit, which is identified here as Aran Nashe, and get some information that's beyond my own personal experience. Lai mo onte ba wonde otu Ife she odunri, and not having been to Ife for the Ifa festival. So again, this is referring to someone that for whatever reason doesn't have easy access to the elders of Ifa and traditional Yoruba culture. Odiegba kini won ko unoro sileo tun puru sekun onibi omini won ko ta sileo hunomo. When all the ritual materials were gathered, he started crying, saying that he did not know if water was to be offered first. So it's this is a direct reference in the OrIki to the purpose of the OrIki, which is to clarify confusion about how to do things. Ishoro rune wabami tunoro yishe ishoro rune biotini won kota silemi imo. Ancestors descend and make this ritual a success for me. Ancestors tell me whether it is Jinn that should be offered first. I do not know. Isoro rune wabami tunoro yishi ishoro rune biobini won ko filele emi omo o. Ishoro rune wabami tunoro yishe ishoro rune ashe. So ancestors descend and make this ritual a success for me. Ancestors tell me whether it is Obi that should be offered first. Ancestors descend, may it be so. So look at, so here's the Ofa Ashe for asking for Egungun possession. Isho ro orun. Isho from the Elysian E Osho ro, meaning the ancestral cloth descends, or this, that's not a good translation. The spirit in the ancestral cloth descends, and so that becomes another form of Ofashe Ishoro. And so what I'm going to do, this particular OrIki raises a real touchy issue of which there's a fine line. You know, it's one thing to be inspired by the ancestors, another thing to make stuff up. The difference is a willingness to put the proof in the pudding. You can be inspired to do something that is unique to you and one of a kind, I mean, that's fine as long as it's effective, right? And the determination of whether it's effective comes within the context of the guidelines of what it is we're trying to accomplish. So that's come up as an issue from people calling me from both Brazil and Trinidad, saying that things are being done in the name of Ifa that are divisive rather than healing. So I'm going to close this lesson for today, and then I'm going to address that issue directly under a different heading. But before I do that, I'd like to welcome all the people that joined us this morning. I'd like to ask if there's any